Welcome to this session on, we called it Bridging Human Silos, Setting Up Data-Centric Communities of Practice to Reach Across Divides. And so this is about the human connection piece of what we want to do in working with Earth data is how do we get people connected? So one thing I want to, let's see, how does this go forward? All right, so communities of practice. We're going to talk about what they are and kind of get definitions from people in the room as well so that we're all on the same page. But really, this is about supporting human connections in the Earth observation data sphere that we're all here for at ESIP. So who are we? I have two co-presenters. Michaela is over here taking care of the people on Zoom. And Amy is right here up in front. And we are basically surrounding the ISAT-2 mission support in different ways. Amy is the applications lead for that mission, and Michaela and I both work at the National Snow and Ice Data Center in support of data users that use this pretty complicated data. So it's space altimetry data. And I did not put a little video in here of ISAT-2 flying around in its polar orbit, zapping the Earth with its green lasers, but that's the kind of data that we work with. And a lot of different PIs make amazing data products out of this, but they're kind of complicated. So we decided, well, Amy was the one who spearheaded this about developing communities of practice to get people together that are trying to use this data because everybody's having the same problems. And we want to get people to be more efficient in talking about those problems with each other. And I hope you're here because you have some kind of idea of, oh yeah, people are trying to do the same things with different kinds of data, whatever mission, whatever program it is. How do we quickly build a space where those people can communicate and connect across the world so that it's easier for those processes to move forward? But I also want to hear from people here. This is going to be a very hands-on workshop-y kind of session. So if you haven't looked at our session notes, I'll kind of guide you through getting to things. We're definitely going to be doing hands-on work today. So who you are, like I said, Earth data professionals that want to attend and or build your own discussion groups around certain kinds of data that are bringing those people together for science research. So what I would like people to do right now, if you haven't yet, is to go to our session. And I just want to guide people to that collaborative notes document because there are some things in here that I really want you to be able to click on and participate in this session. So we have a please introduce yourself and what is your favorite hobby? I used to do a lot of photography, but I decided to add in sniffing ponderosa trees in there too, because I find myself doing that all the time. I'm from New Mexico. There are a lot of them there. I live in Boulder, Colorado now. But if you scroll down in the session notes as well, there are links in here, especially one to our Miro board. And so we're going to be doing a lot of work in here later. Amy's going to demo how that works. But so you don't have to dive in there yet, but we will. But I also want to point out that if the Miro board is something that does not, you're not into it, but you do have a thought, go ahead and put your thoughts and ideas under random session notes. And right now, if you want to write something in there about what you think a community of practice is, would love to see like what your own thoughts of what we're trying to build there. But we also have more specific questions that are the same that are on the Miro board here that you can poke at later as well. So back to what a community of practice is. We were talking about it a bit, Michaela, Amy, and I. And so we were thinking about, do we call them that or call it a discussion group, what have you? But it's a community connector in our minds, a place for knowledge sharing so that people aren't in those silos. And hopefully an open science accelerator because people get past those blocked hurdles when they're working together. So I stumbled into a session yesterday. It was the disasters cluster. This is my first ESIP, so I didn't know about it. But to me, that struck me as a community of practice. Jenny, is that right? Jenny was in there. So like if you have experience from that space, that would be really interesting contributions. So here I have 3 red question marks on purpose. If anybody wants to write in those random notes, or right now, we don't need to pass the microphone because I'll repeat what you say, but does anybody have an idea of what a community of practice is that brought them to the session that you want to shout out?
My hope with a community of practice is that needs, experiences of science communities are recognized, communicated, and that there is a feedback loop back to particularly like the data sensors or missions that are supporting.
So, okay. Yeah. So a feedback loop from users back to the people that are producing that data. That was what that person suggested, which was Amy Steiger. Thank you. Does anybody else have? Oh, yes, please. Well, I was like, just,
yes,
there are, okay, I was just going to repeat people's answers if they were short, but we'll do passing.
It helps keep the online people more active. Yeah. I don't know.
All right. Denise Hills, currently looking for work. For me, a community of practice is a place where you share what works and, more importantly, what doesn't work. So, like, I had a session yesterday called "Failing Isn't Failure." So that to me, it's like learning what doesn't work is more important to me than learning what works.
I think one of the key things about communities of practice that differentiates it from just sort of a broadcast share of, hey, this is what I did and this is what worked and what didn't work and here's what I'm available for, is that it's relationship focused. So the community part there really does lead that name and should be front and center in my mind. So it's a relationship focused group of people who share a similar practice, and those relationships support that practice.
Hi, I'm Mac Borazon, at University of Arizona, and I'm studying information science in order to apply it to this field or geosciences in general. But what I learned community of practice was from like a social science perspective is like a group of people who essentially have like a culture of actions. And often that's like even within a lab group, because you have these particular practices and then you have like the knowledge that gets passed down through like mentorship. So I think communities of practice is a really powerful way to approach interdisciplinary work, especially in this kind of interdisciplinary framework of ESIP.
Thanks. Yeah. So keep those thoughts in mind. and that feedback, because what we're going to do based on what you want, the whole goal of this session is to build a guidebook that helps people make these structures more easy to create. So that is our goal of what we want to do in this session. And what we're going to do is share what we've done around ISAT 2 a little bit. Amy is going to talk about that, about the 2 groups that we've sort of initiated. We've put a little nucleation point out there, and we're going to see how much we can make those grow. And then we're going to have 2 different sessions in the Miro board. So I sent out a Slack message last night about what a Miro board is, but Amy's going to demonstrate what that is. So we're going to do that sharing of experience, what worked, what didn't work as well, from your perspectives. And then we're going to actually have another session, a different chunk of the Miro board, where we, I'm now talking into 2 microphones, where we are going to build guidebook content together. And on the Miro board, there's a piece on the far left that's food for thought with some different subjects to kind of guide where you might be thinking about things. But we want this to be organic. So whatever people think are important to put in here, we're going to have you kind of add your own thoughts to it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Amy. And we had one icon that we didn't get rid of that is now saying hub, but it was like a little hub and spoke model. So that's cute. I'll just leave this up here. And Amy, this is the microphone. I don't know how it is.
It's all good because what you have to say is important. So the reason I decided to do this, and I'm just coming from my own experience, is basically what everybody here has already said, that I wanted to build a community so that people can learn from each other, share information, not reinvent the wheel as far as, building Python notebooks and things like that. Because I feel like there's a lot of institutional knowledge out there that people just aren't connecting together. And, the other aspect of this is, generate new knowledge. So what else can we build with these satellite products? Not just ISAT-2, but combinations of satellites and, everything else that's out there. I don't want to be too ISAT-2 centric here. I know I represent ISAT-2, but it's about other missions as well and other data sets. So as a whole. And, start to foster these partnerships. NASA has this Earth Science to Action initiative where we want to build these relationships and get data into the hands of users who can use it for action. So this is another way that we can do this and build that community and show the capabilities of NASA missions. And lastly, our NASA missions can do a lot of stuff. Like ISAT-2, even though it has ice in the name, can do a lot more. It has bathymetry. It has, obviously, ice. Tree canopy. So it has a lot more capabilities than initially planned. So getting that word out as well is super important. And what I've been struggling with is, I think my biggest problem is keeping the momentum going. And we'll have discussion groups about this, but trying to find a way for people to connect outside of the meetings. Like, I'm not trying to have meetings every month because that's just too much and everybody's busy. So I was doing quarterly, but finding a good place where people can connect has been difficult because of, government restrictions on software and things like that. So finding ways to keep the momentum going, keep people motivated and talking to each other is something that I've really been struggling with, and also to just get more interest in doing this. So I'm hoping to learn from you all how I can do this better, because I want to make sure I'm doing the best I can in serving the community and the missions as best as possible. So I look forward to hearing people's experiences and opinions, and learning from you all of how I could maybe do things better. So that's all for me. Do you want me to go to the mirror board?
No.
You're going to do that? Okay.
Michaela.
One slide. Oh, that's right. Yep. It's on the document.
So today we're going to work in the mirror board exclusively. We have a guidebook sort of skeleton outline started in GitHub already, but we won't work in GitHub today. Don't need to be familiar with Git or GitHub. But that will be like where it lives eventually. And the links are in the slide here if you want to take a look already. It's not written in stone how it's in there. We just wanted sort of a starting outline, and it can all be changed. Today, we're not going to, be writing out the guidebook and a polished product, but we hope to feed the mirror board brainstorming work into that eventually, and we'll do work around that in the future to flesh that out. So yeah, today's brainstorming together. In the future, and we'll show you at the end when we're wrapping up how you can continue to contribute for as long as you want. And we'll do that. Can be through GitHub issues, emails. We'll make it however people are willing to. So yeah. But just to take the pressure off, we don't have to write a polished product today or anything, but we're just going to start.
All right. So has anybody in here used a Miro board before? If you have, raise your hands. Okay, so if you do, this was my first time, so I am still learning, but I did a little practice run. So let's see. Oh, there it is. It's hard to go from Mac to PC. Okay. So I wanted to do a quick orientation for those of you who have not used it before. Super easy. The first thing I wanted to show you, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. So you can, if you have a mouse pad, granted it depends if you have a mouse or a mouse pad, you can move around the screen either by right-clicking a mouse or using 2 fingers on the trackpad. So you can move around the space like that. And there's actually a couple of little things that I copied into here to also you can reference. This food for thought panel that Diane was talking about, that's the one she said that we're, those are kind of to stimulate ideas, not to shape what you guys are thinking. So feel free to look at those. I see a lot of arrows. Awesome. And so now our first exercise, which we'll do next after I'm done, is the first breakout session is going to be roses, thorns, and what surprised you. So basically, you're going to use the little sticky notes, digital sticky notes, to put your ideas. So basically, for those that have not used this before, you want to put your hand on this PC anyway. You want to put your hand over or cursor over the sticky note, then left click. Oop, that did not work. There we go. And then you can separate it out, and then you can actually type in it. So let's see. Here we go. Rose, what worked well? What worked well? I would say community interest. If I can type. I cannot. There you go. Interest. Okay. So that's that one. And then we have obviously 2 more. You can, if you have any questions, let me know that we can start filling out and share your ideas. The other thing you can do is you have these dots over here that you can just click and drag, which I think, Diane, you were going to do that, right? To start upvoting different ideas that are already up there. And then let's see. There it is. And then over here, when we get to it, this will be the second breakout, so not yet. But this is when we break out into groups. And these are the 4 quadrants that we're going to try to talk about today or have the groups discuss. And the same concept applies. So we have designing your community, governance, community communications, and measuring success. So same framework of using the stickies, putting them in those different quadrants, and then typing into them. And then in the bottom corner here, again, not trying to shape how you're thinking or looking at this. We have a potential outline for the guidebook that you can look at, maybe just to, again, stimulate ideas, but you don't have to strictly use that. I think that is all thing. Oh, we'll have a timer too. So there's a timer in here that will time the different breakout sessions. So you'll see that as well. Are there any questions on that? I think it's pretty easy. We're all smart people in the room, so I think we'll be good. And online, sorry, online people are smart too. Okay, I think that's it for me. Let's see, PowerPoint. Okay, I think I did this already. So again, we have the sticky notes, upvoting. We'll sequentially do those mirror board sections, just like I mentioned. So that kind of intro, rose, thorns, and buds, as well as the 4 sections of the guidebook. And remember, the mirror board link, and I see all of you were in there, is in the session notes. And you can also use the session notes, as Diane said, for leaving thoughts. All right, so I think that is it for now. So now we are moving into now I guess everybody's already doing it. So it's what, 10 minutes, I think? Do you want to start the timer? Or you have? She already said it. Awesome. She's ahead of the game. That's why she's the leader. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening already. Let me zoom in here. Email fatigue, yeah.
I see people already using it, but the dots on the side, could you tell us a little bit about?
I mean, those are optional. Like if you see one already in there that you were thinking as well, you can just put a sticky note so that we know it doesn't have to duplicate that same idea. You can just say, you know what, I think this way too. Let me put a dot on there. It doesn't matter what color. No, I should have explained that. The dot colors don't really have meaning. It's the sticky note colors that are the ones that are themed out. But yeah, good question. Should I not join room 1? Okay, I'll say not now. Okay, got it. Oh yeah, good call. That's right. That was supposed to be my job. Oh, it's right up there. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. You had it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so thanks for all of the good ideas that are in there so far. Like I said, there is going to be more time to contribute to that space. Michaela, Amy, and I are going to go back in here in 2 weeks' time to kind of make sure that we get all of those thoughts. And if anybody really wants to get a head start on that, I won't stop you from poking at this summarizing scratch pad of like doing that, but this will do later. But you can come back to this mirror board if you have a thought like this evening and you're like, oh, I should have put that comment in there. You are welcome to come back and do that. But I wanted to point out a couple that stood out to me, and Amy is going to as well. But some of the things that I saw in here was trying to figure out volunteer fatigue. That one, which just moved, that is a very important thing. I've run a meetup group before, and if you're the only person who's ever leading the sessions, that's kind of hard, and you want people to come in and support you. So that's one that definitely popped out to me. I saw there was another one that just had to do with how to reach out to your community. And we had a really interesting thing that we could leverage was all the people that attended webinars that were associated with ISAT2 was something that we were like, oh, we kind of have a contact list. So it was a bit of a cheat to get in there to be able to initiate that. So I think that was a really positive thing for us, but that can also be seen as a thorn because trying to figure out where your community is, how do you make those connections is pretty difficult. Amy, did you see some ones that you wanted to emphasize?
I saw several that I feel like I share. And I'm curious about I would love to hear more about the unclear asks and unclear goals, like what sort of community of practice that was. I don't know if the person who wrote it wants to speak up. If not, that's okay. You don't have to. Yeah, I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Hi, I'm Liz Hoy. I'm at NASA Goddard as a contractor through GST, and I'm actually now co-leading an ESIP collaboration team called Earth Observations for Land Management. And then I also helped to co-lead like an Arctic terrestrial ecology community of practice through IARPIC, which is the Interagency Arctic Research and Policy Committee. And I just, with both of these communities of practice, it's I guess unclear goals or unclear asks. You know, it's hard to you bring people together, but what are you bringing them together for? Are we just sharing knowledge and meeting once a month or once every month to just share knowledge about our activities, or are we trying to do something more? Is there like a workshop we're planning towards? Are we trying to write a white paper? Are we trying to, you know, I don't know, publish a paper about needs in our community? And so I think just figuring that out can be tough. And then also I think this like continuing momentum is something that's hard, or the volunteers get overburdened. And so it's like we have a lot of great ideas, but unless there's maybe some sustained funding for your group, sometimes it can really be really hard to keep things going.
Kathy Todd Brown, University of Florida. Sort of building on that, I like to think about capacity limitations and incentives of your participants. So why are people showing up? In what capacity do they have to contribute to a shared purpose? And what are their limitations, either on their time or their funding? And getting clarity, at least on the organization team, on who you're working with, who your community is, can be really useful. I was part of one project. Now, this was a funded project as opposed to a volunteer community of practice. And we spent a couple of months writing a two-page document on the different types of stakeholders we had on the project, and sort of how they were engaging, why they were engaging, and what they were sort of sacrificing to work on this project with us. And it was really illuminating for a lot of the people on project.
Very nice. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So I feel like we're going to learn a lot, which is fantastic. And I wanted to shout out a couple of the roses to this fostering a safe space to bring up questions and ideas. Like, I love that because that's what I'm trying to do. So, you know, that's a great thought. You know, having that community that lasts through dedicated knowledge stewards, you know, that's another thing that could be great and we really want to build. So I'll stop there. But these are all amazing. So thank you all for putting those in there.
Yeah. And another one, and I think this speaks to what Liz was saying about what is our goal. And sometimes some of these questions are, what are we trying to accomplish? And does that community of practice need to continue meeting, or does it have a termination? Did we hit something where we wrote that white paper and we're done? Like, and now, like, we met each other, we can email each other in the future, but we don't need to keep meeting. So defining what the purpose is of it, I think is really important too. So with that, these are like that background and thinking about what works, what didn't, what was surprising. Our next part of this is we set up this section of the Miro board. And this one, the Post-it notes do have a meaning with the color. So we have ones that are like a tip that if you're, hey, this worked for us, an example, resources. If there are things that don't fit into the categories that we put up here, you can use a white sticky note for any other thought. But what we would like people to do here is we we kind of built 4 quadrants in thinking about large overarching themes of what the guidebook might be. And so we have designing your community. What is its purpose? We have a couple of prompts underneath, but whatever you want to try to address or things that you think ought to be in the guidebook that help. So there's designing who your people are and how do you reach them, those kind of ideas. Designing the scaffolding, that was a phrase we came up with aside from just governance, but that's very important. Like, what is the code of conduct? How do you form that? What are the communications and activities, that interaction that you have with people in the community of practice? What is the cadence of what that could be? The activities, do people want workshops? Do they just want a place to come connect with each other and talk through hack day kind of projects? And then how do you measure if your community of practice is actually successful or not? Did you get that white paper done? Do people keep coming back? What are the things that tell you that it's working or things that you need to shift? So again, to remind us what we're trying to do is we're going to put this all into a online GitHub repo that's a guidebook to help people think about all the things they need to do to kind of ramp one of these up. And if that's not if you never want to build a community of practice, but you just want to be a part of one, be sure to contribute the things that you think ought to be there that would make you want to keep coming back. So those are the kind of things that we would like people to keep in mind. And there is this potential outline of chapters that we have for our guidebook. So looking at that might help you think about ideas and framing, but we don't want to kind of corner you into that. It's just a possibility, because what we'd like to do is just see people's responses to these 4 different areas and think about writing, if I took my own experiences of building one of these, what do I think people really need to know? Or if I'm a participant, this is what I really want my organizers to know. Like, what are the facilitators' responsibilities? What would make it feel like a real thing for you, etc. So this one, we have a longer time because I think this is a little bit more difficult to think about. But what I'd like to do is kind of come back to these 4 different spaces and have somebody volunteer to be this person that gives out kind of a summary of what they see for each one of the 4 quadrants. We can also go to breakout rooms, and so people can discuss those things and then write down the post-it notes together. So the virtual people will be able to discuss amongst themselves and do things. But for people in the room, I see people are already putting in ideas, and this is great. But I think people that want to, if you do want to focus on a particular quadrant, this where Amy's standing can be the scaffolding governance corner. Back in that corner can be the place where it's designing the community. How do you reach the people? And then up here we can have the communications and activities over here, and I'll go over to this spot and just kind of initiate that conversation. And then maybe here in the middle, kind of on this side, measuring success. So I encourage people to have in-room conversations as well. So scaffolding, governance, community, how do you reach community, actions and activities, communications and activities, and then measuring success kind of right here in the front. Oops, sorry. Put my audio on the computer. So welcome back to the group room. We have 10 minutes left in the session. And what we'd like to do is have the different discussion groups have somebody talk with a quick summary of what they heard. And I'll maybe let Amy start with taking the microphone over to this group. And if you, whatever, excuse me, whatever you talked about is fine. It doesn't have to be that quadrant, but please.
Well, yeah, we went off script and we did not cover a particular quadrant, but we did discuss about all 4 of the quadrants throughout our breakout session. And we sprinkled examples and tips and activities. We tried to make sure we used our post-it notes throughout all of them based on our experiences across multiple community of practices. So you're in how many? Or oh God, I can't. So there were like many. We are all involved in many community of practices in our group, and so I think some of the big comments we had. Maybe can you move that breakout room thing there so we can kind of see it? We had some thoughts that we included that I don't know if does it go away?
Yeah, close it.
I'm trying.
There we go.
Clicking on the wrong thing.
Some things we felt like didn't they crossed multiple groups, and so you'll see some post-it notes that are within all of the quadrants or across quadrants, and we felt like it was important to think about if when you're designing a group, if it's top-down or bottom-up group, and so keep that in mind. And that's I don't know, I don't want to go through all of it, but there was a lot in there, and we also added some little dots on other things as well.
All right. How about drifting right to the back corner since you're there? We'll kind of go this way.
So we had a little mini group. So I don't know if we fit squarely into one of these categories, but we both work in different ways in kind of taking NASA data and making it readily accessible for people that have not been working with NASA data for decades. And so you're just kind of talking about, and again, this isn't exactly one of these, but talking about when you're making any kind of content related to Earth data, how easy it is to kind of get in the habit of using jargon or certain things that you just know because you've been doing this for years. But not everyone is going to know exactly what an aerosol index is or exactly what it means when you're like wavelengths between, 200, 300 nanometers. So it's talking about partly incorporating, like input from SMEs and the communities of practice to work with these data to make sure that what you're presenting is correct and up to date and rigorous, but then also being able to step back and think, well, okay, how does this also look to someone who has never sat in a class with these topics before? And how do you be sure that it's useful for people that have been using this their whole lives, but accessible for people that are just seeing it for the first time as well and trying to go in between there. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very good goal of setting, like what our ISAT 2 community of practice is trying to do. So thanks for that.
Our group talked about defining the community, and we found that we've all had a lot of challenges. But one thing we pulled away was working with what you have. And unfortunately for us, sometimes, a lot of the times online, and getting engagement online is a little bit harder than in person. So we talked about various tools that exist and what the problems or benefits of like Slack, Teams, Discord are. But basically providing various types of opportunities for engagement. So for people that like to speak up in a meeting, a Zoom meeting, or like just respecting any type of engagement. So if they contribute to the chat, adding polls, we found all of us found that extremely engaging in various places. So just there's different polling tools. Mentimeter we talked about. I brought up, or I thought about Slido because I think the Slidos have been really engaging in ESIP. Shared notes document as well, because it allows people to contribute without feeling like any pressure or like stage fright, I think. Because you want to respect the people that do show up. And if the people that show up don't want to talk, like you should just thank them for their engagement anyway. And then also defining the scope of what your group is so that people are there for a shared purpose.
And so with that, we also have a virtual room. I think somebody wanted to unmute and talk about what was going on over there. So please do.
Yeah, I'll report a couple of things that we had a really broad discussion. It was actually really valuable. Talked about, it sounded similar, designing, knowing your group. What is the focus, the mission, the goal? If you have a specific goal for your group, you're going to have more success engaging the people. They're going to want to be there because they sort of know, what are we going to do together? What are we going to create together or learn from each other? And I thought that was really great insight. We talked about communicating in between meetings. I shared we have tried some different methods: Slack, email. Slack wasn't. It's been difficult to engage people in between meetings, and they had similar experiences, and so that was really great insight. And then we talked about they gave great advice about what makes a good meeting. Like, make sure you're something on the agenda that folks would want to listen to, whether it's like folks sharing out work they're doing, an application with a particular data set, or I asked, like, would trainings around for like NASA data in particular, trainings around data access, tools for analysis, that type of thing. Do we have people who want to learn Python and that type of thing, or other methods? So it was a really nice chat, but it was super broad. They're gonna type more in the board.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, and thank you to our virtual participants. We really appreciate you.
Yeah,
I love that discussion. Thank you.
And so I'm going to sum up. This group over here picked a very specific community of practice to talk about and kind of sort that out. And some of the things that I was trying to pull out of that discussion when I was listening was, if you have a community of practice that is so large and kind of top-down designed, how do you make sure that all of the people that are meant to be part of it feel like they can communicate and be part of it? That was kind of one sense that I got out of it. And it's like, where are the engagement pieces? Like, how do you build those structures into it when it's such a large community of practice? So that was one of the main things that I got from that. I also wrote some other tips in here that, like, sometimes when you're trying to keep that community together and it depends on other people approving it, how do you report out that measuring of success, that it is really important to have that community so it is supported from above? So that kind of goes back to some of that kind of funding and respecting people's time piece that I saw in some of the what works and what doesn't work for these as well. So those were just some of the things. I tried writing some other notes down as well, but we have 1 minute left. And so I want Michaela come on up and for wrapping up our session. And so thank you. I just want to clap and give everybody a hand for contributing to this. But to it should, yeah, I have, it's in the, yeah, let's just go ahead and go there for our last little thing. If you want to talk, and it's go to bridging here.
Okay, just want to,
and then scroll down, and they're right here.
We go.
There.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, trying to get familiar with. So one way to continue to contribute, we have, so in the slides and then the shared notes, you'll find a link to this GitHub repository. And here's what the book looks like right now. And right on the front page, you'll see this link that has some guidance on how to contribute later. And you can do it here. You can also continue to write in those shared notes. You could email us. You don't have to be locked into GitHub, but this is a way. So you go into contributing, and if you scroll down to the bottom, It talks about proposing changes to the book's outline. And so you can do that by creating an issue. So you click on issues there, select new issue, and there is a
You have to hit one of those square buttons instead of the trackpad.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
The left one?
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. Maybe the right one? No. It's not doing it. Anyways, you'll click on new issue and it gives you a template. And so it makes it real easy. You'll see it'll be pretty obvious to click that. There's a little template for the issue and you can just type in there and click create. And then it'll just be in there and we can incorporate feedback in that way as well. Because the Miro board won't live forever, but the GitHub repo can. So, all right. Was that everything? I kind of forgot that.
Pretty much. So I know we are a little bit past time, but I just wanted to pull up this last slide. So this is where the community practice guide is going to live, and these are our contacts if you want to email us instead. So thank you.